And welcome to Hard Copy from our Abuja studios. I'm Kayla Magwa. The intrigues continue in Nigeria's political landscape. While we were still taking in the controversies following the release of the memoir by Nigeria's former military president, Major General Ibrahim Babangida, and we hear a possible lawsuit could be in the works, the former governor of Kaduna State, El-Rufai, held his first interview since leaving office and opened up with a can of worms that garnered responses from the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu, the President's Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Nanuga, and a plethora of pundits across social media. And all this while we were still trying to understand the significance of a seat placement in the Senate. A seat that might cause the PDP Senator of Kogi Central, Natasha Akpoti, to face a disciplinary panel. A seat that caused the protest against her at the National Assembly. A seat that elicited a Facebook post which could cost the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, and his legal aide, Mfon Patrick, 100 billion naira in damages. Meanwhile, we are collectively squinting at other national issues. NGOs in Nigeria, particularly USAID, on this alleged terrorism financing story, despite assurances given by the American ambassador, Richard Mills. And Nigeria's headline inflation dropped to 24.48% in January of 2025, following the rebasing of the Consumer Price Index, according to the National Bureau of Statistics. Giving us some perspectives on these issues today on Hard Copy is my guest, Senator Shehu Sani, the former senator representing Kaduna Central from June 2015 till June 2019, a politician, an agricultural engineer, civil rights activist, Pan-Africanist, freedom fighter, author, publisher, and poet. He is the current president of the Civil Rights Congress of Nigeria. Senator Shehu Sani, welcome to Hard Copy.
Thank you for having me.
So let's talk about you. You're back in the APC.
Well, a circumstance led to our mass exit from the APC sometimes in 2018. And that circumstances has changed. And then we rejoined the APC in Kaduna State.
What circumstances were those?
Well, first of all, I was a founding member of APC, particularly in Kaduna State. We established the structures and we did the campaigns and we won the 2015 elections, both at the senatorial and the governorship levels. Then somewhere along the way, we parted ways with the governor, El-Rufai, in the state over differences that are both political, personal, and also issues that affect the state. And for that reason, we have to evict ourselves out of the party. And then now that we have a new governor who reached out to us and who has been making consultations, building bridges across the state. And then we also met and agreed that we should return back to the party that we founded in Kaduna State.
So let's talk a little bit about the All Progressives Congress. The party recently held its caucus meeting and its NEC meeting as well after 18 months. And, you know, many people have been very excited about the APC, at least members of the APC, excited about where they are as a party, you know, winning Edo, winning Ondo as well in the governorship elections. But many people are worried about the cohesiveness and the unity within the party. To your view, do you have any idea of any reconciliation moves? And I'm saying this because, you know, when the meeting held, the NEC meeting, many people noticed that there were some particular members of the APC who were not at that meeting. Is there some kind of reconciliation effort going on, or is there something else we need to understand about these people who were not at that meeting?
Well, first of all, it's important that we remind ourselves that the APC was a merger. It was an alliance of people from different political tendencies, different political affiliations, and different political history. They came together to set up the APC, and then it has been in power from 2015 to date. And it is natural that where you have an assembly of people from different political background, you are bound to have this kind of internal skirmishes, conflicts, and disagreement. But, well, it's also part of internal democracy. So what you have seen is not different from the rugged terrain the party has been navigating from 2015 to date. And it is still within that squabble, within that conflict, that the party continue to win elections. And you can't have a smooth, comfortable, convenient party where everyone will agree with everybody at every time. So there is bound to be this kind of things, not just for this very moment and even in the nearest future and beyond.
Let's take a look at someone who has voiced he's been very upset, and of course, listening to I'm referring to the former governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, and listening to him talk, you could see that this is someone who has been pained. He's been upset about this situation. He said in that interview, first interview since leaving office, he said basically, look, it wasn't the National Assembly that denied me the opportunity to be in President Bola Tinubu's cabinet. He said that the change came from the president himself. He went on to make some accusations. Of course, there have been responses to those accusations as well. But just so we can get your thoughts on some of the things that he has said, and and like I mentioned earlier, the idea of a cohesive All Progressives Congress, one that is void of rancor. Of course, it's not possible to be totally void of rancor, but a party where there's a lot of reconciliation going on. It's not just Nasir El-Rufai here. Also, Rotimi Amechi is also another person, another principal figure. That many people are saying there should be some kind of way to bring them back. What are your thoughts on some of the things that he said and these calls for reconciliation?
Well, from my own understanding, is that the former governor of Kaduna State is disgruntled. He is pained, and it is part of the crisis of entitlement and expectations. But now it's like what I posted on my X to remind the public that Nasru was a governor in Kaduna State for 8 years, and he could not deliver Tinubu because the results are there. We live in an internet world. Atiku had his highest votes from Kaduna State. Atiku won Kaduna with a vote of about 554,260 votes for the presidential election. Then came second, Bola Tinubu, with about 399,293 votes. And then Peter Obi, who was denied access to Arewa House after paying for it when Nasru was a governor, pulled over 200,000 votes. So if Nasru will say he delivered Tinubu, I think it's important that the figures should also speak for themselves. So he couldn't. And for the first time in the history of Kaduna State, when Nasru was a governor, the ruling APC lost all the 3 senatorial seats. It's now PDP. And then out of the 14 Federal House of Representatives seats in Kaduna State, PDP won 9, Labour Party won 2, and the ruling APC won 3. So you can see how under Nasru as a governor of Kaduna State, APC lost the presidential election in Kaduna, they lost the senatorial seats, they also lost the House of Reps seats. Now he also made claims of bringing Sani, the governor of Kaduna State, to office. Now also let's look at the figures. The candidate of the PDP, Isa Ashuru, got about 719,000 votes, and Sani got 730,000 votes. So the difference was 11,000. And the point is that the people of Kaduna didn't vote for Uba because of Nasiru, but Uba lost votes because of Nasiru. And this was a man who, at one hand, would be campaigning for Uba Sani, and at the other hand, publicly ridiculing him. It is there on the record, it's there on the internet. The videos are there where he won Uba, when he won the people of Kaduna State against voting for Uba Sani. And this is the person you are campaigning for.
You didn't answer the second part of my question, which,
what was the second part?
Which actually had to do with the reconciliation, bringing him, because he's a member of the All Progressives Congress. He hasn't dropped his ticket, his card yet. Nirotimi Amechi is still a member of the All Progressives Congress. We haven't heard them say that they've left the party. Don't you see this becoming a problem as we go into the electioneering for 2027? Shouldn't we, as a party, shouldn't you start to bring these people closer and mend these fences?
Does he believe in reconciliation? Has he been able to reconcile people when he was in his state? Let me tell you a typical example. When the APC crisis started in Kaduna State and lingered on for almost 7 years between the founding members and he as a governor, the APC as a party sent Masari for reconciliation. He refused to listen to him. They sent Shehu Oni for reconciliation. He refused to listen to him. They sent Inu Abdul Qadir for reconciliation in Kaduna State between him and the people who he has been fighting. He refused to reconcile with them. Oyegun came to reconcile. He refused to reconcile with them. So this was what happened in Kaduna State, and that was the refusal of Nasiru to reconcile with the forces within the APC in Kaduna State led to serious losses. So if it is something he believes in, then you can recommend, but he doesn't believe in it, even his state.
So let's move on to the memoir by the military president, former military president Ibrahim Babangida. It was an era that I know that you lived through very intimately. When you read the book, well, should I assume you have read the book? When you read the book, what were some of the things that made you uneasy in your chair while reading it?
Well, when I got the report that President Babangida is going to launch his memoir, I knew that there would be trouble. Because, first of all, what is a memoir? What is autobiography? There is no former president of a nation that will write everything he knows about his conduct in office, or he will write everything he did. But he will write everything he wants you to know about him, because there are still information that are classified, and there are still information that have the capacity of creating crisis in a country. So naturally, as a leader, you can't write everything. You will still write things you think is what the public need to know. So what Babangida wrote is his own side of the story. For 32 years since he left power, the nation and even the younger generation have always been hearing one side of the story. But now he narrated his own. And when Obasanjo stood up to give a goodwill address, he prophesied and predicted what will happen. And he told him that expect attacks, expect criticisms. And there are people who will not even read the book, and knowing that you are the person who wrote it, will condemn it. And this is what happened. So the book was intended to be a narrative of history that will reveal all that has been hidden, and that will possibly heal wounds and educate, enlighten, and become a reference point for our history. But it has generated a lot of controversy because there are other side of the story.
Welcome back to Hard Copy here on Channels Television, and we have been speaking with Senator Shehu Sani. Senator, just before we went on that break, you were talking to us about some of the things that were missed in the launch of IBB's memoir.
What Babangida said about Delegiwa, the family have a different story. What Babangida said about June 12th, the family have a different story. What Babangida said about the execution of Mama Vaza and Oka, the family of Vaza and Oka have a different story. What Babangida said about the civil war, there are others who have a different narrative of what actually happened. So it will still be his own opinion of history and his own side of history, but do not expect people to accept it. And the mistake that was made in the launching of this book, my expectation is that having stayed for over 3 decades without saying anything, and you want this to be your final outing, at least, my expectation is that when I come to the hall in Transcorp, I will see the family of Abiola, I will see the family of Vaza, I will see the family of Delegiwa, I will see human rights activists, labor unionists who have been arrested and jailed. I will see the academic staff university. I will see journalists whose media were proscribed, all at least taking up a quarter of that hall. And then he will narrate his story and seek forgiveness for them. And then they will make their point. And everyone now, either Matthew Hassan Kuka or the Sultan will stood up and seek for everyone's forgiveness to forgive this once and for all. But it was not the case. I think it's more, the emphasis is on more of the launching of the book and building a President Hill Library. And then they got the money. But the most important aspect of achieving the goal of this disclosure, these revelations, has not been achieved, because the whole was made up of politicians who have nothing to do with June 12th, or politicians who are complicit of June 12th, and billionaires who are ready to simply bring in money, and people of all sorts. But the main people who are aggrieved, who are persecuted, who are arrested, who are jailed under the Babangida administration for 8 years, were not in that hall. And that is the missing link and the missed opportunity that that launching had. You see, I was one of those who were arrested by Babangida after the annulment, because when June 12 was annulled, the Campaign for Democracy, the Committee for Defense of Human Rights, the Civil Liberties Organization, in Lagos particularly, Beko, Gani, Falana, Odion, Olisa Abakova, Ayo Obe, Odumakin, and several others are now sparked a national insurrection against the military regime. And from us, from the part of the North, I led the resistance. And the like of Colonel Umar and the likes of Sani, who is the governor of Kaduna State, and others, we all led the resistance in the North. I was particularly arrested. I was kept in detention, in prison, until Babangida left power. Beko, Falana, and Gani were brought to Kuje prison here, and I was taken to Kaduna prison. So when you have such an event, and people who were persecuted and suffered under the government have no platform to stand up to speak and say, we have forgiven you. That's where the problem comes. Now, the Abiola family have made their statement, the Vaza family have made their statement, Delegiwa family have made their statement, and several others who are all involved in certain have all made their statement. So to me, if the intention was reconciliation, it has actually failed. But if the intention was to get a lot of money and build a magnificent structure where reference materials will be accessed, well, it has been achieved as far as that is concerned.
It's a very, I want to be able to get what happened, how you were arrested, just so we can hear your story. Yeah.
Well, when June 12 election was annulled by the military led by President Ibrahim Babangida. We had a meeting, pro-democracy group, that if we leave it for politicians, that nobody is going to start and fight, because so what we need to do is to rally round Kashimao Abiol and see how we can fight for his mandate. And the protest started in Lagos, and we led the civil disobedience campaign from northern part of Nigeria. I was picked up from my house, handcuffed, and taken to prison and detained under the decree. And I remained there until Shonikan came and then freed me. And many others were also kept in the cell. While I was in prison, it was Sani that now started campaign, and other friends like Wan Suleiman and Nasiru and Sodapre and Colonel Umar led also a forum called Movement for Unity and Progress, where the like of Balare Musa, Bala Usman, Ahmed Joda, and other northern progressive elements now started the fight. So the story of June 12 is not complete until you get memoirs from Colonel Umar, from Sule Lamidu, from the likes of Colonel Gwadabi, and other people who were in the front line during the struggle. So this is one side of the story that we have had. Let's
move on to a few issues. Yes. I think the time it's never enough time to speak with you, Senator. Yes. It's always flying. Let's talk a little bit about some of the pressing national issues that we have. I want to get your thoughts as someone who you are from Kaduna State, and we've witnessed how this asymmetrical warfare has degraded, destroyed really the lives of the people of northern Nigeria. And watching this asymmetrical warfare continue, the conversation about non-kinetic and kinetic ways to sort out this problem, how we continue to have our people dying year in, year out. And then we now start to hear this US Senator, Scott Perry, talking about how a reputable organization like USAID, whose presence we know is almost everywhere in northern Nigeria, especially when it comes to counterterrorism, and when we start to look into interventions for people who have been impacted by this war that we've been fighting with Boko Haram. Listening to that, Senator, but we did hear from the American ambassador to Nigeria, saying, listen, there's nothing that we can prove about this yet. You know, everyone calm down. There's nothing. We're working with the Nigerian government. We're fighting against terrorism with the Nigerian government. This is not proven at all. But the question has entered our minds, hasn't it? And when it comes to NGOs and the work that they do in this country, some have said maybe we should start regulating NGOs. I know the conversation came up around the Buhari administration. I don't know where that conversation, was left. But what are your thoughts on this situation? And in your view, should we as a people and as a government start to look into the activities of NGOs and see where that funding goes?
Well, first of all, it's important that since this matters borders on security, that we ask ourselves, where are we coming from? Well, for the past 15 years, the northern part of Nigeria has been under sustained attack by terrorists and bandits, particularly those of us from the northwestern part of Nigeria. But I do not think that such an organization can be involved in funding terrorism without U.S. intelligence agencies knowing anything about it, even before Trump. So that is an aspect. As far as the NGOs are concerned, I think it's important. I come from the civil society. There are projects the civil society have been involved with in building democracy, supporting human development, healthcare, education, public enlightenment, empowerment, and so many things. So we can't throw the baby with the bathwater. We cannot say all the NGOs are involved in these things here, but it is high time, based on the allegations that have been written, that there should be transparency in the way NGOs are funded and how they expend their funds, which is very important for security and safety of our country.
Senator Shehu Sani, thank you so much for being with us on Hard Copy, and good luck with all the work you have ahead of you.
Thank you for having me.
That's our show tonight. Join us again on Hard Copy. I'm Kayla Magwa. Good night.